All right, this is called the Standard of Ur from the royal tombs at Ur, which is modern Iraq. This is our last Sumerian artwork, 2600 to 2400 BCE. And this is wood inlaid with shell, lapis lazuli, and red limestone. So it's actually a type of mosaic. So I wrote the word mosaic right after red limestone. I wrote equals mosaic. Should add that on there, sorry. All right, so form, the little picture I gave you on your notes where you can actually see this is like a sculptural box, not just a flat panel. I drew those size measurements on there. All right, talking about the form, this is actually a four-sided rectangular box, not just the flat panel. 18-inch wide size panels. You don't need to write that if you're drawing the measurements on there. You do want to write that it's trapezoidal sides at both ends, like it kind of tapers upward, just like the ziggurat angles tapers upward. All right, so we already wrote this. It's a mosaic type of mosaic. So there's kind of like a closer up detail where you can see the blue lapis lazuli that's been inlaid. All right, so definitely write down there are 3 horizontal bands that are called registers, and that's how they divide up the space. So it's like the rows that the characters are sitting on or standing on. All right, content. So what is this depicting? So there's 2 panels, 2 different sides, and it's depicting a narrative. One is war and the other side is peace. This is the earliest representation of a Sumerian army. I made narrative all caps because narrative is a theme throughout art history, and there's been essay questions where it says pick a piece that discusses a narrative and how that narrative communicates trade, or how the artwork communicates trade, or how it communicates colonization, or any theme in art history. All right, so the top register has the king in the center who is slightly larger. And this is, again, in all caps, hieratic scale, because this is another theme that we're going to see, like a stylistic convention or a tradition in art history where you have somebody who was more important, visually communicated as more important by being larger. So large, his head breaks through the border. I think that's really cool, and that happens on both sides. All right, so here's the definition. We don't need to write it. I think it's pretty obvious, but hieratic scale is the use of different sizes for significant or holy figures and those of the everyday world to indicate importance. The larger the figure, the greater the importance. This is also known as hierarchical scale. These are like the hardest words ever to spell. But hieratic scale, hierarchical scale, same thing. All right, we're just gonna kind of zoom in on that top right panel. So you've got prisoners of war, blindfolded, like right here, he's got a blindfold, their hands are clasped together, they're wounded. And then in the middle, you have the battle going on. We don't need to write, if it's in italic, don't write it. I'm just kind of showing you guys this stuff. And then the right middle panel, I'm trying to zoom in right here, you've got, so whenever people, not whenever, but in this instance, prisoners of war are stripped of their clothing, which humiliates them. They're trying to cover up. And then the bottom, or also on the top, but this is the earliest depiction of a wheel. The horses on the bottom have chariots, and it starts with a walk, and then they start to gallop, and then in the end, like right here, we're trampling the enemies. And then I love looking back. This is from where the running horn woman is, Tassili and Niger in Africa. Oh man, now I need to look back. Is that where it is? Running horn woman. Algeria. All right, so they haven't quite figured out how to depict horses in profile, right? Like we're seeing the side of the face in profile, we're seeing the eye in frontal, just like we are with the people, but then you can still see they've got 8 legs, right? We're not quite there yet. And then this thing sticking out of the saddle looks like a little wind-up toy. All right, so let's go to the other side. We've got the peace side, 3 registers, and then what we're seeing here, we have the most wealthy on the top. So you have the king, you have the servants, you have the guests, and then you see all the labor that's allowing them to have this banquet on the top, you see the labor happening on the bottom. So now we're seeing social stratification. Definition: social stratification refers to a society's categorization of its people into groups based on socioeconomic factors like wealth, income, race, education, ethnicity, gender, occupation, social status, or derived power. So we're seeing an emergence of class, right? Lower class, middle class, upper class, things of that nature. Oh, yep, there's the king. And again, he's kind of breaking through the top border. There's just a little bit of border there containing him. Okay, we're going to listen for a little bit to this broadcast.
And you couldn't have a clearer demonstration of how the structures of power work in Ur. The land workers shoulder their burdens and deliver offerings, while the elite drink with the king. And to emphasize the king's preeminence, the artist made him much bigger than anybody else, in fact so big that his head breaks through the border of the picture. What we're looking at in the Standard of Ur is a totally new model of how a society is organized. We asked the former director of the London School of Economics, Professor Anthony Giddens, to consider this shift in social organization.
From having a surplus, you get the emergence of classes, because some people can live off the labor of others, which they couldn't do in traditional small agricultural communities. Everybody worked. Then you get the emergence of usually a priestly warrior class. You get the emergence of organized warfare. You get the emergence of tribute and something like a state, which is really the creation of a new form of power, I think. So all those things hang together, and that was the way it happened, really, the conjunction of all those things.
Okay, so that's pretty cool that we're just now, with the development of cities, now we start to see this emergence of power, right? So that's what we're going to write down for content. There's an emergence of social stratification through different classes. And the two narratives also, it's the same king, right? So the two narratives embody the two major roles of a ruler. We expect a ruler to be a protective warrior, and we expect a ruler to also provide, right? Provide food, provide drink. All right, we're gonna go back to form. So what stylistic conventions are you seeing here? Where are you seeing the tradition of art making continue? Looking at the votive figures, which is also from the same region, and then looking at the figures in the Standard of Ur. Even this one here, the king, and then compare those back to the votive figures. All right, we are continuing stylistic conventions with the depiction of humans. They still have the same square, broad shoulders. The eyebrows are exactly the same. The eyes are exactly the same. Obviously, the clothes are very much the same. It kind of looks like an extra little leg down here, doesn't it? What is that? All right, the bodies now are turned in profile, except the eyes are still frontal facing. I tried to draw an eye from a profile view. If you're looking at an eye from a side view, it would look differently than this eye right here. That is the same exact eye of the, it's almost like they're depicting the sculptures. All right, context, and we're almost done with this guy. We're gonna do context and then function. So like I said, this is from Iraq. Found in a royal tomb. I think we already have that written down for our identifying information. The lapis lazuli, it's that blue stone. This is from Afghanistan. And then the red is a limestone that is from India. The shell is from the Persian Gulf, which is here. That's not too far away. But all of this reflects extensive trading network. So we're learning about their society through the materials and what it's depicting. All right, function. The original excavator thought that this would have been held up on a pole, and that's why he named it a standard. Like the standard bearer should never surrender his banner, almost like a flag that would have been carried into battle or war. But we now believe that this was probably not used for like a flag or a standard or a banner in battle. We have no idea what the function is, but scholars believe that it could have been a sound box for a musical instrument because of the size. I haven't read or heard anything about anything musical parts being found with it. It's just a hollow box. It could have just been a very pretty box. We don't know.